In the annals of American history, Billy Graham stands out as one of the most influential evangelical preachers of the 20th century. Known for his powerful sermons, massive crusades, and moral authority, Graham became a spiritual advisor to presidents and a household name worldwide. But behind the scenes of his global ministry lies a harrowing tale, an attempted threat to his life that could have changed the course of history. Today, we delve into this little-known chapter in the life of Billy Graham. Before we explore the chilling events surrounding the assassin's attempt, here is a reminder of who Billy Graham was. Born in 1918 in Charlotte, North Carolina, Graham's journey from a humble farm boy to one of the most influential Christian figures is remarkable. By the 1940s, his crusades were drawing millions across the globe. His message of salvation through Jesus Christ resonated with people from all walks of life. Graham's influence wasn't confined to the pulpit. He served as a spiritual advisor to multiple U.S. presidents, from Harry Truman to George W. Bush, earning him the unofficial title of America's pastor. But with such influence came risks. And not everyone supported his message. In 1959, Billy Graham embarked on what would become one of his most famous international tours, his crusade in Australia. The Southern Cross Crusade, as it was known, drew massive crowds, with more than 3 million Australians attending his events in person.
Best-known evangelist of the 20th century. He came to Australia for 4 months in 1959. 3 million Australians personally came to his meetings while he was here. He was in Melbourne and Sydney, in Brisbane and Perth and Canberra. He was in Launceston and Hobart. He also went to New Zealand, to Christchurch and Auckland and Wellington.
This was a time when Australia was still finding its post-war identity, and Graham's message of spiritual renewal struck a deep chord across the nation. As Graham's popularity soared, so too did the threats against him. In Sydney, a small but dangerous group, led by a man named George Palmer, plotted to end the preacher's life during this historic crusade in Australia. George Palmer and his boys, armed with concealed zip guns, decided to attend the Billy Graham crusade to take his life and not to hear him preach. Palmer had hated God ever since he lost his father to a heart attack at age 7. George Palmer's father died in Western Australia after planting 100 cherry trees. He had a heart attack and was rushed to the hospital, but doctors couldn't save him. "I'll never forget when I was told that my dad had died. I just couldn't handle that," George remembers. "I remember going up to the top paddock, and I screamed at God. I hate you. I hate you with all my heart. I will never love." The anger grew in his heart. He was a troublemaker in school and the neighborhood. People knew him by his bad reputation, and this reinforced his growing bitterness. One day, after beating their rivals in a street fight, George and his 9 associates captured the rival gang leader and, subduing him, drove a car over his hand backward and forwards, crushing every bone in his hand because he enjoyed hurting people. That's when he and his boys heard that Billy Graham was coming in 1959 to preach across Australia. They hated Christianity and God. They planned to attend the crusade in Melbourne, determined to end the life of the internationally famous evangelist. They clutched their zip guns, homemade guns, and eyed each other as the message prolonged. The appeal would inevitably come, a chance for people to leave their seats in the stadium and come to the front and accept Jesus. As they waited tensely through the message, George looked at the masses of people cramming the cricket stadium. It seemed strange to him that so many people would want to hear the word of God, and he kept wondering what they were doing attending the crusade. Then a voice spoke to him. "What are you doing here, George?" He turned around. There was no one there. This unnerved George. "Okay, I know this is you, God," he said in his head. "You took my dad. You hurt me so much. Why should I love you? Why should I care about you? God spoke to him once more. George, I didn't take your dad to hurt you. I would never hurt you. George hadn't cried since he was 7 years old. He began blubbering. As the appeal came, George set his zip gun down on the grass and ran to the front to accept Jesus. George said that 9 out of the 10 of his gang members got converted that night, all in a blubbering mess. Since 1967, George has worked with the Salvation Army. Watch this clip as George shares this amazing testimony of his Damascus moment.
The story really starts when I was 7.5, when in 1949 my father died. He'd just finished planting 100 cherry trees and then had a heart attack and was taken to hospital. And I never forget when I was told that my dad had died. I just couldn't handle that. Praying to God, God, I hate you. I hate you with all my heart. I hate you and I will never love you. Hatred, I found, is like a cancer. It doesn't stay dormant, it grows. I was just so angry with God. Billy Graham stood for everything that I detested. It was something that drove me and made me exist day by day. The only reason the 10 of us went to that crusade was to kill Billy Graham. I made up 10 zip guns, so each member had one of those. I said to the guys, come on, we're going on the green. And we spaced ourselves so that we could see each other around where Billy Graham was preaching. We decided that we would leave it until the appeal time. Not before, but during the appeal, we would kill Billy Graham. My gun was under my jumper, and I'm standing there and I looked around at this crowd and I thought, what the dickens are all these people doing here? And I turned back around and then suddenly a voice said to me, what are you doing here, George? And I quickly turned back around to have a look and see who was there, and nobody was there that I knew. And I got very uncomfortable about that, I can tell you. Okay, I know this is you, God. You took my dad. You hurt me so much. Why should I love you? Why should I care about you? And God said to me, George, I didn't take your dad to hurt you. And indeed, he said, I would never hurt you, full stop. Well, by this time, I'm starting to melt a bit. Now, remember that I hadn't cried since 7.5. I thought about it for a while, and then the appeal came. I suddenly began to weep. And I cried, and I cried, and I cried. My zip gun was under my jumper, and I put it on the ground, and I ran to the front. The amazing thing was that 9 out of the 10 of us got converted that night. Then we were all a blubbering mess. We really were. And we talked about, how wrong we were and the things we'd done and all this. It was quite a night, let me tell you, quite a night. God took this person that hated him with every part of his being. Yet God took him and loved him. It's amazing how God can take a situation like we were in, and he can change a life completely. And I thank him every day for that. I really do.
The attempt on Billy Graham's life by George Palmer and his gang is a story that could have ended very differently. Had they succeeded, the world might have lost one of its most influential spiritual leaders. Instead, the failed plot serves as a reminder of the dangers faced by those in the public eye and the resilience of those who stand firm in their convictions. Graham went on to preach to millions more in the years that followed, continuing his mission until he died in 2018. The 1959 Crusade series in Australia remains one of the highlights of his ministry, remembered for its impact on a nation and the faith of countless individuals. Thank you for joining as I uncovered this little-known chapter in Billy Graham's life. If you found this story compelling, please like, share, and subscribe for more historical tales that shaped the evangelical world. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on this incredible story and what other events you'd like us to cover next. Until the next video, stay blessed.